What's up everyone, welcome to Kai's channel. Today we'll be doing the comparison between the Metal Build's first edition Freedom with the Freedom Concept 2. Obviously all of us knows that there will be a lot of differences between the two, given not only they are 8 years apart, but the Concept 2 is virtually a complete redesign. But just how much of it is different, you're about to find out. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Here are the two Freedom next to each other. We have the first edition, the old one, on the left, and the Concept 2, the new one, on the right. You can tell already there is actually a slight different but apparent difference in height, which the Concept 2 is a little taller than the old one. Color-wise, they're pretty much the same with the exception of the red, which the old one is clearly brighter and has a tone of pink to it. That looks a bit cheap, like a predefined Gundam marker color, while the new one is a lot darker, which matches with the rest of the blue and black to it. As for the others, the white is a semi-gloss white, while the blue and black are metallic colors, and both of them are very similar in this way. The overall metal color is a lot lighter than the old one. It looks almost as if it is a silver color, so definitely looks a lot nicer on the new one. Starting with the head, the gold antenna is bigger and longer, and is brought out to the front a little to be more apparent on the new one. However, the gold color also seems to be a little pale compared to the old, as well as the side isn't as round as it is before. Not to mention the face isn't as aggressive and much more well balanced than the old one. Although I personally like the face on the old one better, but for the rest of the head, definitely the new one is better. As for the shoulder, the new shoulder is definitely bigger and wider together with the decals, which the SAF logos is on the right and the text is on the left of the old one, while the new one only has the model number 101 on its left shoulder. The new shoulder has this section at the top center that looks like it can be opened, but it cannot. Both the shoulder can actually flip open on the front flap and also the entire top shoulder piece as well, revealing the inner shoulder. The old one can open up to around 45 degrees only, but the new one can go further than that. However, it is stopped by the head's antenna, so definitely be careful on that. Obviously, the old one has this block-like piece as the inner shoulder, while the new one has a more designed circle to it. Also, under the shoulder armor piece, that part connecting to the blue nozzle is different as well. Definitely looks better on the new one with the metal look. However, the shoulder joint can angle forward a lot more on the old one than the new one can. As for the arms, it's definitely relatively the same with minor changes on the arm and also on the front of the forearm. The color on the knuckle is changed from gray to gold. Elbow joint movement isn't as good as the new one, as it still has a distance before it can completely bend all the way back. Moving along is the chest piece. The new one has the metal collar part that can be tilted sideways a little and has an overall complete new design to it. Especially on the torso, where the old one you can clearly see the gaps for the movement and it looks absolutely terrible. It is almost guaranteed that this is unimaginable for nowadays metal build. The new one, on the other hand, there is actually no eye-soaring gap there, and so it's done very nicely. As for the front waist armor, there isn't much on the old one, but on the new you can clearly see that they put effort into making it look cool by adding fine metallic lines in it, and as well as the decals. The side rail cannon is different in angle when it is collapsed. The old one you can see that it's straight down, and the new one is angled backwards diagonally. Both of the cannons can be flipped out exactly the same, but like I mentioned in the review video, the new one has the gimmick of opening the exhaust at the back, where the old one doesn't have it. Obviously, the entire look is different as well, with the new one looks exceptionally cool and detailed. The handle on the old one is just one block of plastic that swings out to the side as a handle, while the new one it's more subtle, where it's popped out of a little piece as the handle as well. As for the rear waist armor, the old one has this big hole that is for mounting the beam rifle, as well as it acts as a connecting part for the display stand. On the new one, this hole is definitely a lot smaller because it is only for mounting the beam rifle and nothing else. Next we have the legs. The legs looks nearly the same, only that the new one looks buffer and not as slim as the old one. And there is actually more details on it. Both the legs does have the movable knee gimmicks that I like, which is neat considering that the old one is released 8 years ago. There is also a 101 decal on the right leg on the old one, which the new doesn't have it, but it has another decals on the left ankle guard. As for the feet, the new one is not as round and curved as the old one, and the exhaust piece is made a lot more details as well. Both of them has the leg thruster fin that can be opened at the back, revealing the inner thruster inside. Obviously the thruster on the new one looks more apparent and looks way better. Finally, we have is the wings. Color-wise, they are almost identical, that goes without saying, but the details on it is quite different. On the old one, the decals is just a printed text, but the new one has a more design to it. There are actually silver linings on the new one where the old one doesn't have any at all. Although the new one definitely looks better, I must say that the old wings isn't as bad at all. However, the smaller fins on the wings opens up a little with a very narrow angle, making posing with the wings not ideal. Unlike the new one, it actually spreads out quite wide, so definitely they have improved on that. The wing beam cannon, the old one looks pretty cheap in quality and is incomparable with the new one. There is also no gimmicks on the old one as well, which the new ones can be opened up and extended, making the cannon looks even better. However, what the old one has that the new one doesn't are these hinges on the wings that locks the cannons itself onto the wings, so that when you move the wings, the cannon moves with it when it's collapsed. If you actually watch my Concept 2 review, you might remember me saying that this was an issue, and this is exactly what I was referring to. Aside from that, the new one actually has more flexibility in that once you detach from the base, the cannon rotates on a ball joint freely, which the old one has only a limited movement. Being that said, since the old wings cannon's connecting joint is a lot bigger and there are hinges on the wings that locks the cannon, the experience on the movement of the wings is actually better on the old than it is with the new. However, one major flaw on the old one is that all the movable joints are very loose, especially on the legs, so that it cannot really stand on its own without putting a lot of effort into it. And this is a common issue for the earlier metal builds. Accessory wise, most of them are the same, other than the new one has one extra connected beam saber handle. Starting with the beam rifle, the two designs are completely different. The old one is thinner, but it's longer than the new one, and there are these lines there that makes it not as dull. On the contrary, the new one, although the coloring looks really good, it's actually quite simple in design and there is a decal label onto it. Personally, I kind of like the old one better for the beam rifle. Maybe it's because it's longer, so that it looks kind of cool. Next is the shield. Size-wise, the new one is a little bit larger overall, and the design is not as complicated as the old, which matches the simplicity with the beam rifle. Color-wise, obviously the new looks better, especially with the pale gold added onto it, where the old one is just black, gray, white, and red. Maybe it's because of the coloring, the old one gives off a very cheap look despite the details on it. Last we have is the beam saber. The beam saber handle are very similar to each other, with the exception on the tips where the beam effect comes out is actually a slightly bigger on the new one. Other than that, only the paint is different. The beam effects is also different too. On the old one, it's just a transparent clear part, which is the same as the one you will find in normal Gunplas, but the new one has the sparkle coating on top of it, makes it look absolutely better. Last are the display stand. The base of the display stand is fundamentally different. On the old one you have is this base that color looks like a hanger with very small text on it of the model number, its name, and also the Gundam acronym. As for the new one, it has the regular white background and the blue text design that we see so often nowadays. As for conclusion, which one is better? Well, this goes without saying that obviously the new Concept 2 is better no matter on the design, the gimmicks, and also the color. But then again, the old one is 8 years ago, so there's no doubt that it will lack in certain areas. That being said, there are parts on the old one still looks very decent even till now, which is the beam rifle, the beam shield, and the wings itself. If they actually had colored the rifle and the shield better, then it would have looked pretty cool. As for the wings, it looks pretty nice right now already, so not much there to say. However, the major flaw that I must say on the old version that makes it totally not worth getting are the joints itself that like I mentioned. So even if you find the old version very cheap nowadays, I would still strongly suggest you to get the Concepts 2 instead, as it is just that nice and worth it. And that's it for today's comparison video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and find it useful. Don't forget to support me by hitting that like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.